let's get to quarterbacks and let's get to your rankings here and read them off, Storey, and give me a little spiel, and we'll get to these guys a little deeper here in a second.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get skewered for this one as well because Ty Simpson is not in my top 5. But I've got Fernando Mendoza, Garrett Nussmeier, number 3, Taylen Green, number 4, Cole Payton. He's been getting a lot of buzz recently. And then number 5, Cade Klubenik. I think everybody's got Mendoza at number 1. And from there, most people have Ty Simpson. And then I think it's a bit of a crapshoot. So I'm interested to see what your top 5 look like.
Yeah, mine's a bit different. And yeah, Ty Simpson outside the top 5 is pretty wacky. But you know what? I got to tip my cap to you. You've been consistent about your Ty Simpson hate. And I have Ty Simpson at 2, but it's mostly just because, like, who else am I going to have? And it sucks. I don't like him. I don't like this quarterback class at all. So I have Mendoza at 1, Ty Simpson at 2, Drew Aller at 3, Taylen Green at 4, and then boom, boom, boom. This is the guy you're going to be like, why is he in your list? Joey Aguilar at number 5. This is a Tennessee quarterback, which is a tough school to profile there. But I hate this quarterback class, and that's why I have him at 5 because I like his film. It's very run and gun, and I'll explain that in a little bit later. But this is how bad this quarterback class is. I'm searching for upside here because I don't like the Carson Becks of the world, the Nussmeyers of the world. They profile as career backups, which is fine, right? Like there's a role for that in the NFL, but these other guys they might be out of the league. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to draft a career backup in the 3rd round. I don't see any upside in that.
That's fair. I don't know that anybody has Joey Aguilar in their top 10, let alone top 5. Played in that cotton candy offense that they have in Tennessee there. So we'll get to it though.
So we both love Mendoza. Let's just breeze through Mendoza. This is obvious based on who's behind him, and some people like Ty Simpson, but just to have Ty Simpson ahead of him is insane. And I guess I'll frame it like this: if this was a better quarterback class, and I'm not going to throw out there the 2024 quarterback class, which had all Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, a lot of really, really good players that are potential Hall of Famers. But just a normal quarterback class where you have your 1, you have your 2, and then you have a 3 that's going to be like a 2nd-round pick. There's usually 2 or 3 first-round guys. This year you have 1, maybe 2 because Ty Simpson. Is that why Mendoza's number 1? Would he be number 1 in other classes? And then let's go back to 2024. Where would you have him ranked? Would you have Bo Nix or Mendoza number 1? If Bo Nix was in this class coming out,
I think I would still have Bo Nix number 1 in that class. Mendoza is. I mean, he's been talked about to death as the first overall. I am coming around. Last time I said that there's 0% chance that he's not starting the year. I still think he will start very quickly, maybe like 6 games in, but I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins that will start the year. Unfortunately, I'd rather see him, get thrown to the wolves and see what he can do on that team. But this is a projection. It's production and projection. Like, his production in Indiana was really good. 41 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. I mean, huge, awesome touchdown interception ratio. Big frame, plus arm, underrated pocket ability. He's got some scrambling ability. They don't do a whole lot of design stuff for him. Really good playmaking ability, good reaction time. Fundamentals need a little bit of work, but overall, yeah, like the question is, if he hadn't won the national championship, would he be the number 1 pick, or would Dante Moore have considered sticking around and actually going to the draft thinking that he might be the number 1 overall pick? I don't know.
That's a good call. I still don't know why Dante Moore didn't come out, because he would have been the number 2 pick, number 3 pick in the draft. And like next year is a way tougher class. But for Mendoza, I think my issue with him, and again, I have him at 1, I think he should be the number 1 pick just based on the fact he's a quarterback and it's a scarce position and it's the most important position in all of sports, not just NFL. It's everyone is saying that he has such a high floor and he's so pro ready. Like, I don't see that personally. I see the gimmicky offense, the RPO stuff, 6 snaps under center in his college career, not just at Indiana, his college career. And, Omar Cooper is going to be a top 16 pick, top 18 pick. Elijah Surratt is super savvy. 15 touchdowns for Surratt. He is going to be a, probably day 2 pick. So you got 2 elite weapons. You have Cignetti, who just ran this awesome offense. Go back to Cal, it was really rocky. And I think that the upside, is there because this kid has all the tools you want in terms of physically and mentally. I'm actually more encouraged about his mental tools, the fortitude, the toughness, the fact that he kind of profiles as an Andrew Luck level nerd where he doesn't have a life. You don't have to worry about anything like that off the field or leadership or what he's going to bring to your organization. Like that is all glaring A's. I love it. But the stuff that I'm talking about with the RPO and the kind of cookie cutter offense, you talked about that with Aguilar. Like this wasn't quite that, but there were so many easy throws. And like, I haven't seen him A, keep his head up that much looking downfield, and B, making multiple reads. Like that stuff is not going to fly in the NFL, especially when you go to Oakland not Oakland, LA. I still call it Oakland, the Raiders. He's going to be in for a rude awakening because he's going to have Trey Tucker, right? He's not going to have Surratt and Omar Cooper. Maybe he has Omar Cooper, but he'll be a rookie. Like he's not going to have better weapons in the corners he's facing. Genty's fine, but like it's not going to be a great situation. We've seen worse situations for number 1 overall pick, but this isn't what Caleb Williams got to come into. Drake May got year 2. Like I just have more concerns for Mendoza than most people are kind of leading on.
Yeah, I don't know that he is a difference maker at the quarterback position. He will be a starter in this league, and he'll be a starter for 4 years, 5 years. They'll pick up his 5th-year option. After that, what his career looks like, I think is anybody's guess. I don't think he'll get replaced while he's in Las Vegas. It's tough. Like, who else are you going to put there? You're going to put Taylen Green there? You're going to put Ty Simpson there? He's the number 1 pick. And also, there's a ton of draft capital that's going into this consideration as well. Like those guys get a ton of leeway. So there's a bunch of red flags, but there's a bunch of red flags with literally every quarterback in this draft. There is no Andrew Luck. There is no Peyton Manning. There is no Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean?
Speaking of red flags, Ty Simpson, a guy that didn't make your top 5, he's my number 2, kind of based on by default. And what do you hate so much about Ty Simpson to not have him in your top 5 when you also made a bet that he might be the number 2 pick in the draft?
I did make that bet.
I'm saying it's a wild fucking, but this is your evaluation and what you're also perceiving NFL GMs will fall in love with.
Yeah, I just kind of the things that we talked about, small sample size for his production, inconsistent processing. He's got the traits, but it's definitely those are being I think those are being evaluated and held up to a better standard than his actual production profile. He's being
1 year too. Storey.
He's being priced extremely aggressively for me for a guy that has a lack of high level production. And the risk of not developing into a starter, period. Like you talk about Nussmeier, probably a career backup. Same with Carson Beck. I can't see Ty Simpson leading a team in the NFL.
So the reason I admit to is, yes, the concerns are real. The lack of experience is real. And with what we've seen in the recent history with some of these guys, specifically Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, guys that some people were fading a bit because all their college experience, they were older prospects. They were around the gauntlet. They went to multiple schools. They had 5 years of experience, 4 years of experience. That's been playing in the NFL. Those guys are coming in day one and not being franchise quarterbacks, being starting quarterbacks, where Ty Simpson has just literally the 1 year. And I'm going to spin this the other way, though, because his start of the year, 20 touchdowns and 2 picks? And then it was 8 touchdowns and 4 picks the second half. And there was clearly multiple injuries. There was 3 injuries. And I want to kind of comp this to a Baker Mayfield, not the player, but what's happened to Baker Mayfield's NFL career. What got him out of Cleveland, ran out of Cleveland, was playing through that separated shoulder and having awful numbers. Last year, they were 5-1. Baker has multiple injuries, plays through them, and sucks. This is the Ty Simpson thing. It's like, what's the real Ty Simpson? Is it the elite start that may be based on schedule? And obviously he was fully healthy. And the second half, it was a tougher schedule, but he had the injuries. So, like, how much of it, Storey, was based on the injuries he suffered, and how much of it was defenses and defensive coordinators in college catching up to him? The lack of run game, which was very apparent. Like, was this all on Ty Simpson? And I think you're going to say it was because you don't have him in your top 5.
I think 90% of it was on Ty Simpson. There was enough receiving talent on that team that he should have produced consistently. I don't like the I don't like the lack. Like, he didn't have 100 yards rushing last year. Like, I know they take rushing yards away for sacks and et cetera in college.
Right.
But Yeah, I think the A on that helmet is doing an awful lot of heavy lifting, along with the lack of a real like set of number twos or second tier guys. So I think he's kind of there by default, and I think he's going to get overdrafted in rookie drafts.
Well, it's wild. You said the A on the helmet, but like Alabama is like right there with Ohio State for having bust quarterbacks. Like Tua, yes, he led the league in passing one year, but he's also been a major bust at 5 overall. The list goes on. Like Jalen Hurts, but he transferred and went to Oklahoma. So like, is that really even an Alabama product? So like, there's been no good Alabama product quarterback. So we should be overlooking him more than we are because of the Alabama thing.
I don't disagree, but I think that there's a stigma around. Stigma is not the right word; it has a negative connotation. But I think there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that are still enamored with the Alabama system, and think that the guys that produce there are going to be awesome at the next level. I really don't understand. Like there's guys that had better production, more consistent production, and we're looking at Ty Simpson 1 year, and he's being screamed up draft boards. I don't get it.
Where would you be comfortable? I think I've done this with some of my ranks as well, where it's like I'm planting my flag, and I feel like you're kind of planting a flag on Ty Simpson, and you've been doing it for months now, so I commend you. Where would you be comfortable drafting him? Because I do feel like he still has and correct me if I'm wrong, the highest upside besides Mendoza in this draft. And you're saying he doesn't? Because take away Taylen Green, who's an alien. Like, let's talk about real quarterbacks. Drew Aller, who I love, you don't love. Like, you can't tell me anyone else has a higher upside because there's a reason that the tools are there. There's a reason that he is potentially a top 10 pick. He's most certainly a first round pick. Like, there has to be something. And you know what? We've also whipped on this exact model of quarterback a million times in the last 10 years. True.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know that anybody has upside in this draft class. I mean, nobody thought that Josh Allen had upside coming out of Wyoming, right? Well, the athleticism was there, but it's like small school guy, right? What is it? What does he actually look like in the NFL? And here we are. I don't know. Can I say that?
The difference is Ty Simpson doesn't. Well, Ty Simpson doesn't have those measurables, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Talk about like,
you're asking about upside. I don't think that Ty Simpson has upside, but can I say that I think Cole Payton has upside? I mean, there's a lot.
We're gonna get to him. We're gonna get to him in a second.
Okay.
I have a couple comps for you for Ty Simpson. So upside comp, which is wild to say this for a guy that's going to be a first round pick, and the guy I'm comping him to was Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. That would be the upside comp, which is kind of wild. Like I said, it's an upside comp of a guy that was Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant
landed in Kyle Shanahan's system, and obviously that helps a lot. But the downside comp is I can list a million guys here, but the number one guy I want to go on is Zach Wilson. Like Zach Wilson was same size, I think Zach Wilson has a stronger arm than Ty Simpson, but I think Ty Simpson is probably more pro ready than Zach Wilson was coming out of BYU. But like that didn't work, and you can say it was the Jets, and I actually still have some hope for Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson was clearly overdrafted, and I could throw you Mitch Trubisky as well because the profile of the game started right, and Mitch Trubisky was a guy that was steamed up because of some production and because of literally 10 college games. That is what we're talking about with Ty Simpson. That's the same exact thing, and there's just too much to work on. Now, I think that Ty Simpson's a better prospect than Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, in hindsight, it's easy to say that story, but and I give you one upside comp, but I can give you 10 downside comps. But all that being said, I still have Ty Simpson as my number 2, and that's pretty much because of the lack of talents in this quarterback class. And the guys that I do love are very raw, and I could see them not being anything in the NFL. Where I feel like Ty Simpson is at least going to be something. And I don't think his floor is Zach Wilson. I really don't.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
What's a good situation for him to land in? Like, he's not going to start right away, probably.
Well, Arizona and the Jets, he's definitely starting by week 8, bro. Like, they have to. If they take him in the top 18, top 20, like they're gonna start Geno Smith all year. You're gonna start Brissett all year. I don't think so. What's the point of that?
I mean, there's a reason that he's plus 10,000 to go to the Jets. Or at least to go to number 2.
All right, let's move on to your number 2 story. That is Garrett Nussmeier. Did not make my list. So both of our number 2s did not make each other's list. So I actually love this exercise we're doing here. And I think it also just shows that this quarterback class is wacky and terrible. And you know what? Someone will come out because we see this every year. Like someone will come out and be good. We just don't know who the fuck it is. And you're going with a very high floor player here in Garrett Nussmeier at LSU.
Yeah, I think he's got an extremely high floor. People are going to point to the 2025 season and the production. He played through injury all year long. Like he was extremely touted prospect coming into this past year. They never actually came out and said what it was. It was just an abdominal injury. I'm convinced he had some kind of sports hernia, or else it like the stuff around him, the fact that they're not telling anybody, the fact that it was misdiagnosed, none of it absolutely makes sense. But I like the fact that he's probably the best pure passer in the league, and with a lack of upside at rushing outside of a couple of guys, I'm gonna have to go with the guy that is actually accurate. High yards per attempt, high explosive throw rate, big time. Decent arm. He's got a fairly decent profile. If you're talking about translatable passing skill, he's our guy. So a timing based system makes sense. Think the Shanahan, McVay trees right there. You got to be careful. Like he's got some decision-making issues, some volatility there. Limited rushing upside. We just talked about it with Simpson. No rushing upside. But yeah, he's a QB2 in fantasy. He's a spike week guy, but it's going to take some time for him to see the field.
Yeah, I have no notes. I'm just it's him and Carson Beck are very similar to me, and they should be in my top 5. Let's be honest. They really should be because of their production in college, and they're both, like coaches' sons, right? And whether they are or not, like they play like that, that they can be penciled in to start some games. And now if they go to the right situation, they get coached up, like there is some upside there, but the measurables and the other stuff like size, arm strength, like are not there for these guys. So like the upside is just not there. But also weak quarterback class, we want to get something out of these guys, where Nussmeier is a guy that I feel like will stick around the NFL for a long time. Now, I don't know what that's going to be.
He's probably going to get some decent draft capital because of his performance at the Senior Bowl when he was finally healthy.
You know who my comp is for Nussmeier? It's Chase Daniel.
Oh,
and
okay.
Out of Mizzou. But Chase Daniel was the backup of backups. Like, how they have the commercials for the backup quarterbacks? Like he created those commercials. He's not in them, but he actually created these commercials. And I love Chase Daniel. He's actually really good. If you ever watch any Chase Daniel stuff, he has, I don't know if he has his own podcast. He's on a lot of people's shows. Very, very good. And who else will know more about quarterback play than him? Because he hadn't played a lot of it in the NFL, but he's been around a lot of it. All the meetings, clipboards around he's pretty much backed up fucking every starter in the NFL. And there's something to be said about that, but I want to shoot a little higher. So my number 3, this is the exact opposite of this guy. This is Drew Aller. So I'm shooting for the moon here. Youngest quarterback prospect in the draft. Got hurt last year. Penn State's offense, we talked about with Nick Singleton, like after his freshman year, it's just not been great. And you could maybe blame Drew Aller. I'm not going to, because I think he has the best tools in this draft. And I'm counting Ty Simpson, counting Mendoza. This dude's huge. He's athletic enough, 4'8", 40, which is right on par with Josh Allen. Doesn't quite move like that. I see a lot of Jackson Dart in his game. And the reason that I have him so high is I was very low on Jackson Dart. I missed on Jackson Dart, and it was a limited sample size last year. But Jackson Dart, we both hated Jackson Dart last year, Storey, and he proved us wrong, at least going into this year, right? And that wasn't exactly a great situation. He didn't really have neighbors for much of the year. And, Jackson Dart's much more of a run-first quarterback, a little more athletic than Drew Aller. But Drew Aller has a better arm. And the way this guy throws the football, the way the ball comes out of his hand, it's reminiscent of Josh Allen. And he's 21 years old, 20 or 21 years old. Like, this is the ideal project for a team like the Lions. We have Jared Goff, who has 2, 3, 4 years left, and see how the contract goes. A team like the Rams, who have probably 2 years of Stafford. Give me him to a spot. He doesn't have to start for 2 years. And that's not a ringing endorsement on a guy that I have 3. It's also a reflection of what I think of this quarterback class. And he has the highest upside besides Taylen Green, who, again, we're going to kind of keep out of this conversation until we talk about him because he's such an outlier with what we saw with Anthony Richardson. There's only one Lamar Jackson, and we'll see if Taylen Green can be Lamar Jackson 2.0. But I just love Drew Aller at what he could be, not what he is.
Yeah, the gap between good Drew Aller and bad Drew Aller is a wide chasm. So what team can actually unlock good Drew Aller? Probably the biggest blunder of last year was him deciding to return to Penn State. There's a strong chance that he was a top 5 pick in last year's NFL draft. He was being scouted heavily. And then the situation deteriorated. He obviously had a season-ending injury early in the season, midway through the season. But he didn't look like himself at all, even going into that game where he got hurt. So can you unlock that? If you can, then he's probably a solid guy. I just have concerns about, he's been around for a while, but he still seems really raw to me.
He was really young. I mean, because he was thrust in really young. And what you said though is kind of why I have him ranked so high.
Young,
in fact, you said if he came out last year, he would have been a top 5 pick, or top. It would have been a mistake though, right? It would have been a mistake. I'm just saying, clearly he has the talents
to
be thought of in that regard at all, right? You said last year he would have been.
No, last year he would have been a top 5 pick. I
exactly.
Think, yeah.
And none of these other guys, Carson Beck, Nussmeier, none of these guys, even Ty Simpson, except for your bet, don't have that upside, man. And like that's what I'm chasing. The fact he's the youngest guy in the draft. The tools are for real. And this is a guy that, there's a lot of guys in college that don't run a lot, and usually they're in good schools. They don't have to run. And we saw Jackson Dart didn't run a lot in Ole Miss, like relative to what he did in the Giants. He was fucking literally running first. They were doing like quarterback draws on the 8-yard line for him. He was running his first game. Remember, like 55 yards rushing. Like this is a guy that comps to me as a player that when he gets a chance, he is pretty raw, not great at reading the field, that he will actually level up as an athlete in terms of being a run first quarterback, a dual threat quarterback. Because he has the physical skill set to do so, the size, and the speed.
I mean, he's got to work on the passing game. You mentioned he's young, and he is, but he's been around for 4. He had 4 years in college, so he's been around.
I like that. He has the experience, though, right? Like he does have the experience.
He's never been a huge touchdown guy. Even his junior year, I think it was his redshirt sophomore year, whatever. It was only like 3,300 passing yards. So in the Big Ten, that's kind of it. Like if you got a team that can unlock that potential, I think there's a solid chance that he becomes a starter in the league. But this is a flip a coin, like which Drew Aller is going to end up in the NFL. And
he has not showed up in big games. That is totally fact. Like that's where he's beyond the last year where he was injured and he struggled. Like even in the year where he was 33 touchdowns, 6 picks, whatever it was, like he played bad. And he kind of padded his stats at the end of those games when it mattered most against a higher end competition. That's a major issue with me with Drew Aller. But again, this is a projection, a project. I love the upside with Drew Aller, and like I almost like it more than Ty Simpson. I feel like the floor of Drew Aller is lower than Ty Simpson.
I honestly would put Drew Aller over Ty Simpson.
That's great. I love your story. All right, so you're number 3, Taylen Green. My number 4, Taylen Green. I'll say this: Drew Aller and Taylen Green. That's like 3A, 3B for me. And the reason I have Drew Aller higher is just because we haven't seen this mold work outside of Lamar Jackson, and Drew Aller has the NFL comp, right? Like the dream, like size measurables and the pocket, somewhat pocket passer mentality. And that's why I have Drew Aller ahead of Taylen Green. But if you take that apart, I would have Taylen Green even higher. So we both love him. Give me your Taylen Green thing.
Yeah,
he is an alien.
I mean, he is an alien. It's all blue across the metrics and the measurables. We've talked about it to death. We've been talking about Taylen Green for a long time. This is a risk. There's a strong possibility this goes way wrong, and we've got another Anthony Richardson situation. Now, unlike Anthony Richardson, Taylen Green has been around for a while, and he had 3,100 yards passing last year. Not a big touchdown guy, but my God, 777 yards rushing last year it's drool worthy, right? Like Boise State, he was good. Arkansas, he was great. Highest ceiling bet in this entire class. I mean, dual threat, long stride acceleration. I want a team to fall in love with him. I want them to use, we've seen he's got big time arm talent. We've seen those big throws, vertical shots outside the numbers, but he's very inconsistent. So he's got to work on that. The short to intermediate stuff needs a lot of work. Processing is still in development. And I think processing is going to be a problem with a lot of guys, but he can be late on his reads. So he's a cheat code in fantasy. And if he gets a starting gig, I think he's immediately becomes a fantasy contender. He's the only guy in this class that I think has top 10 fantasy upside, period, if not higher. I mean, it's a bet on the talent and it's a bet on the athleticism and the hope that he can clean. He's a strong worker. Like, he's a smart guy. I think he can clean these things up and be a contributor in the NFL.
It's a top 5 upside for fantasy, not top
Yeah,
10.
I didn't want to say top 5. It sounded really aggressive, but it is like, you want to talk about boom bust. Like, he's the only guy that actually has top 5 fantasy upside.
Well, I'll tell you why it's top 5 for fantasy upside story is because Anthony Richardson, as bad as he has been, as bad as he was in the Colts, he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback when he played. And that was with him being god-awful because he had a rushing touchdown every goddamn game. So Taylen Green doesn't quite have that bully ball in him, but he is a more advanced passer and just a more advanced player than Anthony Richardson. Like you mentioned it, the Boise State stuff, like that alone is better than what Anthony Richardson had at Florida. And then you had all the Arkansas stuff. And as a guy that bet a lot on Arkansas based on following my buddy's blind bets, Sean's blind bets on Arkansas, not last year, but the year prior. So it would have been his junior year. I was like, who is this kid? This is 2 years ago, and I was like, who is this kid? Like, he's so tall, he's so fast, and acceleration is a little bit of an issue where to comp him to Lamar is insane just because Lamar has elite agility, elite long speed, and elite quickness. He has just mostly elite long speed, and it's Colin Kaepernick-esque. It's like the one thing I see when I see him play. Like, the strides are so long, but my comp to him is Vince Young, and it's because of the release. And I think Vince Young didn't get a great shake in the NFL because he was winning games with Tennessee. It was almost like a Tim Tebow situation with Vince Young, but Vince Young was more real than Tim Tebow. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Tebow was more of an athlete than he was a quarterback. Vince Young was definitely a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there in Tennessee. I know there were some mental health issues with Vince Young and decorated college quarterback. And you know what? Taylen Green's experience, like going in the SEC and like last year, what did they win? 2 or 3 games? But they were in all those games, dude. It was like 35-42, a lot of the scores I saw. And Taylen Green was willing this team. And, Mike Washington gets all the hype. Like, his numbers weren't that great. This was Taylen Green. And the upside, and I love the interviews with him too because he is a great kid. And my famous quote, I'm going to keep on saying it, is that Taylen Green should sue Anthony Richardson because Taylen Green's a fucking first-round pick. In every other draft, if it wasn't for the cautionary tale that we just saw from the Colts drafting Anthony Richardson, and that's really killed Taylen Green's like draft stock because Mike Washington rose up 2 rounds. Like, some of these guys, like Kenyon Sadiq is now like firmly a top 15 to 20 pick. And like Taylen Green kind of hasn't risen up the boards, which is kind of why I like him because we loved him pre-combine because we knew what he was going to do. We didn't know he was going to do that. We didn't know the vertical would be 43 inches, but we knew he was going to run something in the 4.4, and he ran better. We knew he'd have a great vertical and all these other measurables, but it was even better than we thought. But somehow the market hasn't really adjusted. And why is that?
Because
Anthony Richardson? I mean,
I'm
just saying, like, why?
I don't want to gloss over the fact that there are a number of issues with the timing, with the processing, with the progressions, and with the accuracy, especially the short to intermediate stuff. That stuff does not go unnoticed by NFL scouts and coaches. So, yeah, I mean, it is probably a certain amount to do with Tim Tebow and Anthony Richardson to a much greater extent. But, yeah, I hope he lands in the right situation. I hope they give him a shot. Where would be a good spot for him?
For us fantasy players, and one last point before we get to Sports Jazz's comment, because it's right on topic here. Appreciate you, bro. Is as much as we tout the combine and, the workout was amazing story, the throwing stuff wasn't amazing because it was a couple throws, but they were like, it's one thing to miss a guy, and they were running, I think it was a dig route or just a little out route, a little 12-yard out, and he missed a couple guys by like 8 yards over their head. And like that kind of stuff is exactly what we saw with Anthony Richardson, where it's like, this is no pads. This is a workout. and you see the guy miss by a mile. Like, now, other than that, though, he was actually on time and pretty accurate, but like that's very concerning.
We saw, like, it was a meme when Shuck had his combine. You remember he missed that guy like 2 feet behind him and it bounced off the turf?
Yeah.
Now he's starting for the Saints.
Yeah, I know Shuck had a couple other questionable, like, underhand things. I almost remember the Max Brosmer throw against the Seahawks. Like, he had a couple of those in college, but you were talking about combine. He had that one throw in the combine. Tyler Shuck is now what? No, you're right on what you're saying. It was the combine that he made that throw. But I was saying in college, he also had a couple of those underhanded, like, scared to get hit kind of throws, which we didn't see in the NFL in that limited time. So Sports Jazz says, coming off the last conversation we had, which team do you think Taylen Green can thrive with? Like, where it's a good destination, because we don't want him starting day one for fantasy. We wouldn't mind it, but for his career path and, like, learning the position. And he's a one year minimum sit guy.
Right. Pittsburgh, like, if Aaron Rodgers comes back.
Ooh, yeah, that's a nice. I like him in cold weather too. And I always say this about, like, wide receivers that can't separate. It's a weird kind of off-topic conversation, but give me the weather matters, because, like, guys that are tacticians as wide receivers, like, that goes out the window when it's 5 degrees and it's snowing and the field sucks, right? And Pittsburgh's field sucks. So, like, Taylen Green, the game's going to be mucky. Pittsburgh wants to play a mucky game. So, like, what better to have? That's why I didn't understand the benching of Justin Fields, like, when they were winning, because Russell Wilson, like, that's Steelers football, right? Like, give me a guy that's a gamer that can get me the yards on the ground on 3rd and 4. And Taylen Green, this is a perfect spot, because Aaron Rodgers, there'd be no threat to Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, if you draft Ty Simpson, Aaron Rodgers might be looking over his shoulder a little bit. And like, when are they going to go to Ty? If we're 4-5, is this team going to just say, fuck it? And he doesn't want any of that. Taylen Green, like, unless there's a massive injury to Aaron Rodgers and he's out, Taylen Green might not see the field then. They might go to, their 3rd string quarterback, right?
I don't know who their backup is right now.
It's the rookie they love, the 5th round rookie out of.
They do like him a lot. What the hell is his name?
Yeah, you should know this.
Anyway, you mentioned it. Like, I think the reason that they went, like, I think that's part of the reason that Tomlin is gone, is that he wore out his welcome there and just wanted to do his own thing, and it wasn't necessarily the best for the franchise.
Yeah, Cruz says Bucks would be nice. I think we want to go with a team that doesn't have an established, like, I said the Lions, because Jared Goff's older than Baker Mayfield. Yeah. And, like, what is Jared Goff 33?
Like, Baker's career.
Right. They love Baker.
On the down slope.
It has to be a 34-year-old or a quarterback that, like, Vikings could be an option. A quarterback they're not sold on, and there's no contract in place. And it was, Sam Darnold's never going to be sold for anyone until he wins, like, 3 Super Bowls.
Right.
I'm trying to think of any other, I would say, like, the Cardinals, but they're going to most certainly draft an elite guy next year, and you don't want that controversy. So it has to be, a fringe team. Pittsburgh is really the perfect team, a fringe team that, has an older guy or has a guy they don't believe in, that, long term, and whether that's they don't want to pay him, they don't want to pay, have a Tua situation where it's like, guess what? We either lose Tua, we have to pay him $52 million a year. Clearly, they made the wrong choice with Tua, but their hands were tied, man. If you let a guy walk, you're restarting your entire franchise, because you don't get Jayden Daniels walking and Drake May and Caleb Williams walking through the door very often. You also have to have the first pick to get those guys.
Watch him get drafted by the Jets in the 3rd round and absolutely crater any hope that we'd have that this guy becomes a fantasy star.
Yeah, because in Dynasty, what are you doing? They're going to draft, they're going to suck, and they're going to draft, whether it's Arch Manning or the kid from you mentioned that would have been the number 1 pick last year.
Dante Moore. I'm not entirely convinced that Arch Manning won't come back for another season after this year with NIL. Right. He's got a whole cadre of people around him telling him what to do, what it looks like. Like, okay, he gets injured, he gets a high ankle sprain. He's out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever it is. And it hurts his production numbers, and he's never himself. Maybe he comes back. Like, I'm not entirely sure that Arch is the guy yet. Like, signs point to it, but I don't know. The way that
he plays his ass off, and the pick is the Jets, and, like, we've seen the Mannings literally take a stand before. This is not, like, hypothetical, and, like, he's not going to want to go to the Jets. Who wants to go to the Jets? Not a guy like Arch Manning. You want a guaranteed not winning franchise, but like Jets and Browns off limits, bro. If I'm Arch Manning, like I'm not going to those teams unless the owner's gone, the GM's gone, and we just get a whole, I'd rather go to an expansion team, bro. Give me David Carr's situation over the Jets.
I mean, I think you could throw the Cardinals in there, but definitely,
that's a bad franchise.
That's definitely
all right. Let's get to your last couple before we end the show. So Cole Payton is a guy I love. Storey, I love him. I've been talking him up. Not so much when you've been on the show, but my issues with Cole Payton is I think he is not a quarterback. I think he's more of a gadget Taysom Hill level player, which isn't a bad thing, right? But like his combine was really overlooked because all the other guys that blew it up, and he's a monster, dude.
Yeah. So like I hesitate to call him Taysom Hill because that's the easy comp, but it's extremely unique profile in that very like as a backup quarterback, he was used a lot in run packages and used very run heavy in his early career, but he flashed legitimate passing growth and passing upside when he finally got the job at North Dakota State, which is a bit of a quarterback factory. If you look through some of the guys that have come there, tough, athletic, he plays in structure, and North Dakota State's structure is very sophisticated, believe it or not. 6'3", 232, multi-year rushing production, and you love to see that being consistent. He also had 777 rushing yards last year. I'm betting on the development curve, the pro-ready traits from a pro-ready system. This archetype has historically translated better than expected. We saw it with Carson Wentz. We saw it with, what's his name? It'll come to me. Anyway, this is a statistical play. It's not necessarily, outcome production based. So you got to consider the level of competition, obviously, and limited high volume passing sample. But overall, I like the fact I think that this is there's the other guys around him have more red flags for me.
Do you think there's a real chance that he becomes an NFL starting quarterback? I guess that's my thing. Because I think that day one he could be how Taysom Hill started, Austin Eckler, some of these guys, special teams maven, right? And then you start working him in on some specialty packages, and then maybe down the line quarterback. But I think his path would be, which actually with how bad this quarterback class is, Storey, I see why you have on the list, because that might be more valuable than anything we get from these other guys. If he is a Taysom Hill light, even though he's not light at all, because it was 235 pounds,
232.
Like, dude, he's huge. He's
now,
strong.
He's
bear in mind, 4'5".
Carson Wentz was this size when he was at North Dakota State.
Yeah,
right? Like so, and like the efficiency numbers that Cole Payton put up last year were all-time records for North Dakota State. He earned a spot at the Senior Bowl. He earned a spot at the Combine for a guy that was thought of as a gadget player coming in. I just love the growth, the transition from being a gimmicky guy to being a full-time starter. I don't know. There's a lot to like about it. There's a lot to be wary of, certainly. I'm not saying that he's going to blow the doors off whatever franchise he goes to, but I like the possibilities here.
My biggest worry is it's not processing. It's not any of that shit. It's the release is so slow. It's so slow. And like, that's not something that can really be taught. Like, do you agree?
Yeah,
like it's not Tim Tebow, but the mechanics are rough. And part of that is he's a left-handed quarterback, which always looks a little funky to us. But at the Combine, he looked better. But I was going on his tape his last year, and it was like, is this an actual NFL quarterback? Because if that gets cleaned up or that is acceptable, I go back to some other guys that had really slow releases. Byron Leftwich comes to mind. And Byron Leftwich was a monster. He had a really good rookie year. Josh Freeman, another one of these guys, pretty slow release. That doesn't translate. That's just tough. That's an extra, third of a second that this crazy defensive lineman can just destroy you. Now I will say there was a certain quarterback that came in the league that had a very slow release and had one. I know. Let me tell you. It's Drew Brees.
Okay.
Who is it? Is that who you're talking about?
No, it's Deshaun Watson. He had a very slow release and a very, his arm velocity was very slow, and yet he's still like fourth all-time fantasy points per game So
Yeah.
maybe
And
it's not.
first all time in hand
I will agree.
jobs.
He lacks a little zip on the ball, right? You want to see him drive that ball into the narrow windows. I think he can work on that. But yeah, there's a lot of red flags. I'm not arguing the fact that we're talking about red flags with our fourth
in this class. Yeah. Drew Brees didn't have a slow, but he had a wonky release coming out of Purdue, and then that became one of the most efficient arms of all time, like in terms of release.
Fair enough.
So I was trying to guess your answer because it's a weird one. Get to your number 5 before I get to my number 5. So you have Cade Klubnik, who is bad, but you know what? He had a 36 touchdown, 6 interception season as a sophomore, right? That was a sophomore season, right?
Whatever.
It was 2024.
I think it was a redshirt sophomore. I think I don't know how many games he played in 22. I don't know if that counted if he was a junior.
But it was elite. It was elite, man.
Yeah, I mean, 36-6 is just an incredible touchdown to interception ratio. Yeah, he's pretty bad. He's definitely undersized. He's 210 pounds. He did spend his entire career at Clemson. He was an elite recruit. Like, he was a 5-star recruit. And I think for one season he did meet that ceiling, but he was solid for his entire starting career there. Good athlete, quick release. RPO systems is definitely going to be his friend. He's going to work well in timing and rhythm. Structure is definitely going to help. Mid to high 60s completion percentage, which is definitely what we want to see. Not a whole lot of rushing, very modest in that. But he did scramble quite a bit, and they had tons of schemed RPOs for him. Functional NFL backup, spot starter profile to me if things break right, but he's safer than some of these other lower tier options, but he doesn't have standout traits. And I'm glad that he's gone from Dabo Swinney. I hate Dabo Swinney with an absolute passion. I think he's going to do.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. There you go. That's my dime store take on a guy that I personally think is bad, but is better than the other bad options in this draft.
Now I want to think of a percentage chance because there's some Bo Nix vibes with Cade Klubnik and everything, the size, Bo Nix isn't the biggest guy in the world. He's pretty mobile, and Bo Nix was really erratic, man. Like, and even in the NFL, he's been erratic. He's been a winner, also tied to Sean Payton, who you hate, but Sean Payton's a fucking great coach. I'm sorry, but he makes quarterbacks. Fuck you. Don't make that face. So that's like the upside of him is a guy like Bo Nix who was experienced in college, and Cade has a strong enough arm. He has all the things you'd want. It's just thin frame, questionable decision-making, and erratic stuff.
But, for a guy that's 207 pounds, I don't think toughness is a question. His offensive line at Clemson was a disaster last year, and he hung in for most of his career. He took tons of hits, and he kept bouncing back up. He got voted to be the permanent captain for, getting absolutely slaughtered day in and day out. So toughness, not an issue whatsoever. I'd like to see him put on 10 pounds, like at the very least.
Yeah. Again, I don't hate him actually. It's just this bucket of like, again, if I'm higher on Ty Simpson than you, because it's not hard to do. This bucket from like 3 to 10 it's literally flip a coin, dude. And like, what's your flavor in the landing spot? But I feel like he has more upside than Carson Beck and Nussmeier. But the floor is what you saw last year at Clemson. 16 touchdowns, 6 picks following the awesome year. And there's no rhyme or reason why that happened. And like Drew Aller, I feel like there is the injuries and some other stuff. Like, I don't know what happened with Cade Klubnik.
I think a lot of it was that system completely evaporated around him and his offensive line. Go back and watch. Like, they couldn't stop a fourth grader coming through there.
Ooh. All right. So my last guy I'll just touch on, it's Joey Aguilar. And this is a weird one because, like I said, I hate this quarterback class. We both do. And I'm searching for a prototype here. And I know the system is not friendly, but I like the system better for quarterbacks than I do wide receivers and running backs. And this was mostly off the back of watching a lot of Chris Brazzell, man. And like everyone, and we both hate Chris Brazzell. But like I had to watch him because I see a lot of people like he's number 5, he's number 6 in this class. So I just kept on rewatching him. Like, what am I missing here besides the off the field stuff with Brazzell? And one thing I noticed is that Joey's great. Like, he's a gamer. He is savvy. He sees the field really well, and maybe that's because of the system. But he's huge. He's got a strong arm. He's battle tested. He throws a lot of picks. I'll say that, but that could be cleaned up, possibly. I'm just looking at a guy that
in every year.
Every year. I understand that. I tried, and only like 24 touchdowns. It was like 24 and 13 a lot. I'm just looking at him as the mold of a quarterback that could make it work. It's a bad quarterback class, and that's just why I'm throwing a guy in here that no one's really heard of. No one's talking about. He should probably have been in my deep gem show, honestly, more than this list. But this is what I think of this quarterback class, what I think about the guys like Nussmeier, Carson Beck, guys like that, Kate Klubnik. Like, give me this guy over him. You're going to get him for free. He's going to sit. All these guys should sit. And I like the tools he's working with. I really do.
I mean, his athleticism leaves a little bit to be desired, right? Like, not a great 40. He didn't really do any
pocket passer plus Story.
Yeah, I don't even know if there's any plus there. Again, he also played it in, like I said, in a cotton candy Mickey Mouse throw the ball 425 times system, right? Like that Josh Heupel.
You want to hear my comp? You want to hear my comp? It's gonna make a lot of sense. And this is a guy that went really high in the draft that had actually, in my mind, more NFL success than most people want to give him credit for. He's still in the league. It's Spencer Rattler. It's a bigger Spencer Rattler, who also was very loose with the ball in college, Story. And, that was a bad situation for New Orleans. And, like he did beat out Tyler Shuck fair and square in the preseason, right? And he was playing okay ball last year. And Spencer Rattler's Ty, though.
In the regular season, Tyler Shuck took that job from him. 47-year-old Tyler Shuck took that job from him.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. But Spencer Rattler wasn't playing terribly. And the thing is, Spencer Rattler's what, 6 foot, 210? This is that type of player. He's just a lot bigger. And I have been impressed with Spencer Rattler he was overdrafted. Was he a second round pick? Like he was overdrafted, but Spencer Rattler was a really high recruit coming out of high school. I think that's why Spencer Rattler was drafted so high. But like, I feel like it's a good comp. And I actually, we'll stop talking about Aguilar because it's a weird one to have on my list. But you know what? A guy you guys got to pay attention to. I'm trying to also talk about different guys, but I truly do want him at 5 because I see the upside with his. I think he could have a Spencer Rattler level thing. And I don't know why teams aren't going after Spencer Rattler right now. But Drew Aller, last one. I didn't give you my comp for Drew Aller. He is a stronger, bigger Ryan Tannehill. That is my comp for Drew Aller.
Wow. He's
pretty good career
tall.
there.
He's not taller than Tannehill, is he?
Okay, bigger. The same. I think they're both 6'5".
Okay.
So maybe Tannehill might have been 6'6". He's a monster.
Yeah, he's
hot ass wife, by the way. Too.
Interesting.
But you see that comp? Like Tannehill was a similar type player.
Scrappy
and actually had a really good, career in Tennessee, which you could be like
got out of Miami,
like
a good couple of years there in Tennessee.
Won some games and just more tools than Tannehill had to work with. And Tannehill had a nice career, and it kind of just fell apart for him. But like all these guys, if you give me any of these guys and you say, would you draft him if he had a Ryan Tannehill level career, like with this quarterback class, that's a win because I think that's quarterback 2 in this class.
I need a new iPad. This thing is smoking hot right now.
That's going to blow up and kill you. Oh, shit. All right. What a great show. I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
That was a great show. Covered a lot of ground.
It was always a great show. We always do.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback. And if you guys do that, man, it's unfair. We lost as a team.